Next, we're going to learn about the head center. Yay! So finally, we move up to the head. And so check your assignment sheet and open your manual to the pages about the head center. And we'll get started. In esoteric healing, when we say we're working on the head, we're referring to balancing of the centers and triangles within the head center. This head center energy is at the very top of the head, but it is not the physical head. We are aware that the etheric body is the blueprint of the physical body, right? There is as well a blueprint of the physical body within the head center. I'm sure you're familiar with reflexology and you've seen how different organs of the body are represented on the foot or the ear in reflexology. Well, this is kind of the same thing. Well, in the whole body is represented on the head center. A perfect pattern of our being is contained in this center, a blueprint of our body, and this perfect pattern energizes the etheric body. Everything above and below this center is represented. This head center energy is a higher vibration of energy. The energy is very fine, precise, and more potent. This is spiritual energy, and you will feel this when we work on the head in the practical class. There are two divisions of the head center. In a treatise on cosmic fire, Bailey describes the head center's twofold division. The first part of the head center is made up of the 96 petals of the ajna. The 96 petals of the ajna. The second part of the head center is made up of the 972 petals of the crown center. These combined 1,068 petals make up the head center. Bailey refers to the blending of these petals as the head center. There are also references in Bailey that describe this growth and combination as the 1,000-petaled lotus, as I've mentioned before. So again, we see this interaction, communication, or blending of the ajna and the crown center that occurs more and more and opens up through our spiritual development. So as I said, the ajna is the first part of the head center and generally represents the personality body. It is not a true lotus like the other centers because it has only two real petals. The two petals are composed of 96 lesser petals, 48 lesser petals on each side. They spread out like wings to the right and left of the head and are symbolic of the right-hand path, which is a path of spirit, energies from the soul, and the left-hand path, which is a path of matter from the personality body. So again, we've got that blending of soul and personality. So it's the influx of these two types of energies that construct the soul's organ of sight and awaken spiritual vision. And what we call the crown center is the second portion of the head center. It consists of 972 petals of pure spiritual energy. Together, the blending of the crown center and the ajna petals create that head center. There's another way to visualize it on top of the Buddha's head. It's all of the petals within the cap-like structure on Buddha's head. That's symbolizing head center. In a treatise on cosmic fire, Bailey makes an energetic connection of the lower centers on the body to the centers on the head, which she talks about the transference of energy of the centers below the diaphragm to the centers above the diaphragm, and then the transference of this energy into the corresponding head centers. So you may be wondering, why would we work on the head center? Like I said, all the structures and triangles that you've learned within the body are also represented in the head center. But when we balance centers and triangles on the head, we're working within a spiritual center, so there's no need to balance the energy at levels. We simply balance it on the head, and then we can go back down to the body and check that same triangle on the body, and all the levels will often be balanced. So let's say you assess the liver on the body, and it's really depleted at several different levels. Like let's say physical, emotional, mental are all really, really blocked. It could take you a bit of time then to balance it at each of those levels. Instead, we can jump up to the head center and balance the liver on the head center. Balancing it there facilitates balance at all levels. Balance within the head center, so you can see, is quick. We don't hold it for more than 10 seconds. Just like you learned when we balance the ajna, alta, and crown, we don't hold it for more than 10 seconds. So after you balance on the head, if you go back down and assess the liver, it should be pretty well balanced. You may still need to do a little more balancing on the body, but it should be much stronger at all levels. So you can see how this would really speed up your sessions. You're not having to do every organ at all these different levels. The downfall to just working on the head was that would be a little intense to only work on the head. But the downfall is also it doesn't give you the information as to which level was blocked. And that information could be really important for your client. So for that reason, I still always assess everything on the body. And then not all the time, but sometimes then I'll jump up to the head. If it's depleted at a lot of levels, I'll just go up to the head, do a balance, and then double check it on the body. So when we're balancing in the head center, we're working with potent spiritual energy. When the energy on the body is very depleted, it can be very useful, as I just said, to jump up and balance the triangles on the head instead of the body. It's good for triangles in trouble, really trouble areas. Remember how in part 1 and 2, how I'd always say, don't work on the body in areas of cancer when it's on the body. And I'd follow stating that, you'll learn how you can work with cancer in later classes. And you'd all say, and it's always frustrating to hear that, I know. But yay, the time has finally come. Woohoo! Working on the head center finally gives us a means of safely working with someone with bone cancer. When someone has cancer, we don't want to balance the cancer site on the body and add energy to it, right? You've learned that in part 1 and 2. I told you that. There could be a risk of stimulating the cancer cells, but now we learn that we can jump up to the head center and safely balance the cancer area there. Yay! So balancing on the head is quick, efficient, potent, and so very useful. But even though we know this information, it's still a good idea to balance the centers and triangles on the body. It would just be too much, too potent to only balance everything on the head center. So I work on the body a lot, but I'll jump up to the head and kind of go back and forth between the two. There's a couple things just to review and to really know about balancing the energy on the head. So I said all the centers are represented on the head. All the organs, glands, minors, spine, it's all found on the head. Now the right and left sides of the head center are generally reversed. Remember when we talked about the cerebral hemispheres, how the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body? Like if someone has a stroke on the right side in the brain, it affects the left side of the body. Well, this concept is generally the same up in the head center. Left is right, right is left. If an organ or gland is located on the left side of the physical body, you In a general sense, you may find its energetic component on the right side of the head and vice versa. For the anatomy located on the right side of the body, find on the left side of the head. If a triangle or organ is not pictured on the diagram, it doesn't mean that it's not there. Ask for it and you should be able to find it. We can apply, this is probably your next question, we can apply the raise just as you would when balancing the triangles on the body. And we hold fast to that 10-second rule. Hold when you're balancing in the head, no, don't hold it more than 10 seconds. This goes for all centers and triangles on the head. And in the head center, we need to work at least 18 inches from the surface of the head. Whether you're in person or imagining them in your mind during a remote session, don't stand too close to your partner. It won't feel good to them. They might describe a headache or just feel like it's too intense. So when we meet in the practical application portion of the class, you'll learn the techniques for balancing the centers and all the triangles on the head. Not all, some of the triangles on the head. Yay! I know you're excited. Finally! In the meantime, let's just go over some of the diagrams that you'll find in your manual so they're not foreign to you once we start working on the head in the practical application class. Here we're looking at the centers at the top of the head. Remember, they are not the physical head, but they reside within those 1,068 petals of energy that are on the head. So here we have the front of your head, obviously the nose, and the back of the head. We have the crown center, we know is right in the center normally, so we find the crown center at the top of the head. The solar plexus is on the left side of the head. We have the heart center on the right side of the head. The throat center is in the front of the head, just kind of between the ajna and the crown center. And then we have the basic center at the back of the head above the alta major, and the sacral center kind of in between there. So just kind of get a feel for where those are. And if you think of like Buddha's cap there, remember this isn't the head, this is like the cap. This is the head center. So we have crown center, we have, here's ajna in the front, alta major in the back, crown center in the center, throat center in front of that. We have solar plexus on the left, heart center on the right, and then we have in the back, we have the sacral center and basic center. So just get a feel for those. This view of the head is giving us more detail. Just kind of take a breath as you look at this picture. Don't let yourself become overwhelmed with this. In reality, you'll realize it's actually very simple once we start to practice it in class. But first look at this and it's definitely a whoa type of feeling, right? I'm just going to point out a few things on this page of the anatomy that we worked on in previous classes. So look here. Well, here's the crown center, throat center, solar plexus, heart from the other picture, sacral, and basic centers. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at the solar plexus. And by the solar plexus, we find some of the organs that we worked with. Remember, we balance the spleen and the liver, right? So here we have the spleen and the liver right near the solar plexus center in the head center. And then if we go opposite the solar plexus, we have the heart center. And let's see, in the back here we have the sacral center and we have the ovary and testes minors. Okay, they're on each side. And this is where, when we're in this midline here and we have these two minors, the right means the left ovary or testis on the body. The left one on the head means the right ovary and testes. And then we have the basic center here. And I'll just point out we have when we balance the basic center, on the body, we do the adrenals and the kidneys. So if you look here, we have adrenal minors, right and left, and kidney minors, right and left. So again, right kidney on the head is left kidney on the body. And same with the adrenals. Okay, so let's go to the throat. Here we have throat center, we have lung minors, and these are labeled. So this is actually going to be the right, it's on the left here in the head, but it's going to be your right lung. This is going to be your left lung. So I think that about covers the main things there's some other areas on here that we're going to work with in the practical portion, and I'll go through later. Okay, now we see a side view of the head centers. And so up here we have the crown center, the alta major, and the ajna. You know those. And now let's look at the centers. So we have the basic center in the back here above the alta major. So it's not like down in the neck here. It's in the back of the head. So we've got the basic center, and then up a little more, like kind of halfway there between the basic and crown, you have the sacral center. And then remember in the other picture, on the right side was the heart center. So this is down a little further because it's on the right side, the heart center. And then up here, kind of between the ajna and the crown, we have the throat center. We look back here, by the basic center, we have the kidney minors and the adrenal gland minors. You see that we're missing the solar plexus. The solar plexus is on the left side, so if we were to turn around, it would be in about the same area as the heart, but on the other side. So you could really help yourself by kind of even pause it and just point them out on your head and memorize them quick. And just kind of keep reviewing those in your head so that when we go through them in the practical class and balance them and balance the triangles associated with those, you'll just really have this down where we find these in the head. And here's a diagram for how the spine looks when we're balancing it in the head center. The tailbone starts at the back of the head. So here's the back of the head and the basic center. So we have the tailbone and the sacrum and the lumbar, thoracic, cervical extending towards the front of the head. Now, if we were to look at it from the side, you'd see it starting at the basic center and it curves along the shape of the head. So it curves upward towards the front. So we will learn to balance this in class. So for now, please just study and become familiar with these diagrams in your manual. We'll go over them more in detail when we meet in class, and you'll learn how to balance all of these areas. This is another nice representation of the head center. You can see here we've got the basic center in the back, the sacral center, the solar plexus on the left, the heart center on the right, throat center in the front, crown center right in the middle. Again, that's a lot of new info, so just kind of stop, take a breath, breathe in, and breathe out. You've got this. It's quite a jump from how you've been doing sessions, but before long, it'll be second nature. No worries, you've got this. Remember how you felt when you started part one and how much you've learned since then. This is nothing compared to that. So this concludes your lesson on the head center. I can't wait for you to start learning how to balance these in class. such exciting work to come. So I'll see you in the next video.